Hi everyone, it's Miss Clark and today I'm going to read you our story of the week. And this week our story of the week is still about the body, but this time it's called Funny Bones. Now can you see what's on the front of our story? What can you see? That's right, I can see a skeleton. This looks like a big skeleton, a little skeleton and a dog skeleton. Now I wonder what's going to happen in this story. Have a little think what you might think might happen. And our authors are Janet and Alan Alberg. Let's set it up on our big book stand. Are we ready? This is how the story begins. On a dark, dark hill, there was a dark, dark town. And in the dark, dark town, there was a dark, dark street. And in the dark, dark street, there was a dark, dark house. And in the dark, dark house, there was a dark, dark staircase. And down the dark, dark staircase, there was a dark, dark cellar. And in the dark, dark cellar, what do you think's going to be in there? Some skeletons lived. There was a big skeleton, a little skeleton, and a dog skeleton. What shall we do tonight? Let's take the dog for a walk. One night the big skeleton sat up in bed. He scratched his skull. What shall we do tonight? He said. Let's take the dog for a walk, said the little skeleton, and frighten somebody. Good idea, the big skeleton said. So the big skeleton, the little skeleton, and the dog skeleton left the dark, dark cellar, climbed up the dark, dark staircase, and stepped onto the dark, dark street. They walked past the houses and the shops. They walked past the zoo and the police station. And they went into the park. Let's have a little look. The big skeleton scratched his skull. What shall we do now? He said. Let's play on the swing, said the little skeleton, and throw a stick for the dog and frighten somebody. Good idea, the big skeleton said. So the big skeleton, the little skeleton and the dog skeleton walked around the dark, dark pond, past the dark, dark tennis courts and up to the dark, dark swings. Let's see what happens next. The big skeleton and the little skeleton played on the swings and they threw a stick for the dog. Suddenly, something happened. The dog skeleton chased the stick, tripped over a park bench, bumped into a tree, and ended up as a little pile of bones. Look at that, the big skeleton said. He's all come to pieces. What shall we do now? Let's put him together again, the little skeleton said. So the big skeleton and the little skeleton put the dog skeleton together again. They sang a song while they did it. I wish we had a nice little boy to frighten. I wish we had a nice old lady. So the big skeleton, the little skeleton and the dog skeleton left the dark, dark swings, went out into the dark, dark town and tried to frighten somebody. The trouble was there wasn't anybody. Everybody was in bed. Even the policemen in the police station were in bed. Even the animals in the zoo. Of course the skeleton animals were awake. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Snort. Oh, look at all these animals. Oh, and they're all skeleton animals. Get up, Nellie. Good evening, all. Who's a cheeky boy then? Have a cup of tea, pretty Polly. Put the kettle on, Mother. Let's have a ride on the elephant skeleton, the little skeleton said. Let's have a word with the parrot skeleton. The big skeleton scratched his skull. Let's keep out of the way of the crocodile skeleton. Oh dear. When they were back in the street, and when they still could not find anybody to frighten, the big skeleton said, "What shall we do now?" "Let's frighten each other." The little skeleton scratched his skull. "Let's frighten each other," he said. "That's better than nothing." "Good idea," the big skeleton said. "I'm coming to get you." Gotcha! So after that, the big skeleton frightened the little skeleton, and the little skeleton frightened the big skeleton. The big skeleton and the little skeleton frightened the dog skeleton, and the dog skeleton frightened them. Meow, woof! Ooh! They hid around corners and frightened each other. They climbed up lampposts and frightened each other. They jumped out of dustbins and frightened each other. All the way home. And that is how the story ends. On a dark, dark hill, there was a dark, dark town. And in the dark, dark town, there was a dark, dark street. And down the dark, dark street, there was a dark, dark house. And in the dark, dark house, there was a dark, dark staircase. And down the dark, dark staircase, there was a dark, dark cellar. And in the dark, dark cellar, some skeletons lived. And that, they still do. And that's the end, can you see? They're the skeletons that are still living in the cellar. Now I'm really looking forward to seeing all of your work from both reception classes, and we look forward to seeing it all posted on Dojo. Don't forget to send us pictures of you listening to the stories, doing your phonics work and doing your maths work. I'll see you all soon. Bye everybody.